NYU Langone just cut off trans youth care. Let's talk about why. NYU Langone, one of the biggest hospital systems in New York City, just announced that it's shutting down its transgender youth health program. This means that trans teenagers who are getting puberty blockers, hormones, and coordinated care are suddenly being told, "We're done, you're on your own." Families are scrambling, advocates are furious, and the hospitals are blaming the current regulatory environment. Let's talk about what that actually means, what's driving this, why this is a dangerous escalation in the right-wing war on trans people. So what did NYU Langone do? Here's the basic story. In calls to parents, NYU Langone told families that the hospital is ending gender-affirming medical care for transgender minors. This includes puberty blockers and hormone therapy, the core treatments that help trans teens navigate puberty in a way that matches who they are. The transgender youth health program is being discontinued, and the hospital says it will no longer prescribe these medications for patients under 18. The official statement says that this is due to the current regulatory environment and the recent departure of the program's medical director, calling it a difficult decision. They say they'll help patients manage this transition and that pediatric mental health services are still available, but the medical care itself is being cut off. The federal pressure behind this. This didn't happen in a vacuum. In January of 2025, Donald Trump signed an executive order targeting gender-affirming care for minors, and his administration later proposed cutting federal funds from hospitals that provided the care. Then, in December, the administration went even further, threatening to withdraw federal money from any hospital offering puberty blockers, hormones, or surgeries to trans youth. For big hospital systems like NYU Langone, losing federal funding, Medicare, Medicaid, research money, that would hit their bottom line hard. NYU Langone already rejected once. Last year, after Trump's order, they stopped taking new patients into the youth program and even canceled appointments for new patients who were supposed to get puberty blocking treatment. Now, with the funding threat escalating, they've gone all the way and ended the program altogether. So when NYU says regulatory environment, what they really mean is the federal government is threatening them, and instead of fighting back, they're caving. And it's sacrificing trans kids to protect their money. What this means for trans youth and families. For trans youth, this isn't an abstract policy debate. It's, will I be able to keep the medication that lets me recognize myself in the mirror? Will my child's care just stop because politicians in Washington want a cultural war win? Parents told reporters they have been bracing for bad news, but were still stunned when the calls came. Some are now desperately searching for new doctors, trying to transfer care from smaller practices or clinics that are willing to keep treating trans youth, even if it means risking political and legal backlash. Local officials are sounding the alarm too. Manhattan Borough President Brad Hollingman-Sigal said he's horrified by the potential consequences for these young people and warned that many will struggle to find providers that will continue their care. He also said hospitals that pull out of this work have a responsibility to actively help patients land somewhere safe, not just cut the cord and wish them luck. Civil liberties groups are calling this move what it is: discrimination under pressure. The New York Civil Liberties Union said NYU Langone is giving in to transphobic bullying tactics from the Trump administration and warned that denying medically necessary care to trans youth violates New York's own human rights law. Meanwhile, LGBTQ+ caucus leaders on city council have called the decision an attack on the entire community, demanding that the program be reinstated and that cities and states step in so kids aren't left without care. A bigger pattern: hospitals folding instead of fighting. NYU Langone is not alone. And around the country, major hospitals and clinics have been scaling back or ending gender-affirming care for youth in response to hostile laws, funding threats, and subpoenas. NYU Langone and Mount Sinai, another Manhattan system, both received federal subpoenas last year as part of an investigation into pediatric transgender medicine. This kind of legal harassment sends a clear message. If you serve trans kids, we will make your life hell. Our position on this has to be clear, crystal clear. Healthcare systems shouldn't be neutral bystanders in the fight. They're choosing a side when they drop trans youth to protect their federal dollars. And this isn't just about safety or education or caution. Gender affirming care for youth is backed by major medical organizations and associated with better mental health and lower rates of suicide attempts among trans teens. When the hospitals shut down programs, they are increasing harm and risk for some of the most vulnerable kids in their care. What we're watching is a test. Will big liberal branded institutions in a city like New York stand up for the far right federal government? Or will they quietly implement that government's agenda while insisting that their hands are tied? What needs to happen next? So, where do we go from here? First, New York City and New York State officials need to do more than just issue press releases. They should be guaranteeing funding, legal protection, and public backing for providers who continue to offer gender-affirming care to youth. Second, hospitals like NYU Langone should be held accountable under state human rights laws if they deny medically necessary care based on gender identity. If they claim their mission is patient-centered, that has to include trans patients, even when it's politically inconvenient. Third, movements on the ground, trans groups, parents, unions, faith communities, all have to stand up and say, this is a line in the sand. This means that organizing, showing up to hospital board meetings, pushing city and state regulators, and supporting the smaller clinics and doctors who are still willing to provide this care despite the threats. Because here's the bottom line. Trans youth deserve to grow up with dignity, safety, and access to the same standard of evidence-based medical care as everyone else. When the powerful institutions fold under federal pressure, it's up to us to push back loudly, publicly, and in solidarity with the kids and families on the front lines. If you want more unapologetically pro-trans, pro-justice breakdowns like this, hit like, subscribe, and share this video so that more people can see what's happening behind the bland hospital states and political spin.